The NFL draft is fast approaching, and while some of these rookies are going to land in really bad spots that are going to crush their fantasy value, let's have some positivity today. Let's project forward and put these rookies in the best possible landing spots for their fantasy value, not only for the short term, but for the long term. I'm going to project the best possible fits for the top rookies in the 2025 class. Now, I'm not going to cover all the rookies because that would just take all day long here, and nobody's got time for that. Just the top rookies. Let's start at quarterback with Cam Ward. Okay, yeah, he's probably going to the Tennessee Titans, unfortunately, but let's put him in a better spot. I'm going to say the New York Giants would be a great spot for Cam Ward. I know they just signed Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, but I don't really think that matters here. We saw last year Russell Wilson. Okay, sure, he started nicely for the Steelers, but what did we see down the stretch? We saw the Russell Wilson that we saw in Denver, that we saw at the end of Seattle. I don't think this guy is it anymore, and I think the Giants are going to realize that sooner rather than later, and we would see Cam Ward starting by like week 4, week 5, week 6, wherever it is. And I love this pairing with Brian Daboll. We saw what Brian Daboll did with Daniel Jones his first year. Turned him into one of the best rushing quarterbacks, got the most out of him, helped develop Josh Allen in Buffalo. Cam Ward is way more talented than Daniel Jones. I think he could get the most out of him. And when you look at the top 3 teams that need a quarterback, the Titans, Browns, Giants, the Giants have by far the best wide receiver with Malik Nabers, the best playmaker with Malik Nabers. So I know it might not seem like a good spot, because of what they did in the offseason, but I think Cam Ward would be starting sooner rather than later, and I think he would be awesome for the New York Giants. And while Shedeur Sanders is probably going to get drafted by the Giants, I would love to see him land in Las Vegas with Pete Carroll. Now, I know Geno Smith is there, and maybe this isn't great for him year 1, but I think it's great for him long term for 2 reasons. Number 1, Pete Carroll. What have we seen with Pete Carroll? Well, he developed Russell Wilson into an MVP, and he saved Geno Smith's career. Now, I know Geno Smith is there, but I think it would be great for Sanders to sit behind Geno Smith for 1 year, and then next year be named the starter and off and running. So, okay, maybe not great for him in year 1, but I think great for him long term to have Pete Carroll and get to learn from Geno Smith. And look, maybe if Geno Smith struggles, Sanders could be starting at some point. And of course, if Geno Smith goes down with injury, Sanders would definitely be starting. But I think the Raiders would be a great spot for him long term for his fantasy value. Again, maybe not a lot year 1, but plenty after that. Now on to running back, and of course we've got Ashton Jeanty, easily the number 1 running back off the board. Generational talent here. I know that some people saying Raiders, whatever, this team. No, the Bears. Give me Jeanty on the Bears, and oh my gosh, watch out. First of all, you got Ben Johnson. Okay, offensive upgrade, huge just from Ben Johnson right there. But look what they've done to the offensive line. They've beefed up the offensive line. Now, it's still not perfect, but it's way better than it was last year. And they have picks to even upgrade the offensive line more in the NFL draft. And Jeanty is an absolute talent, generational talent. He's an explosive play waiting to happen every time he touches the ball. This would be a loaded offense. Louis Riddick of ESPN has said that if he goes to the Bears, he will break Eric Dickerson's rookie rushing record. Not sure I'm ready to make that claim just yet, but man, if he goes to the Bears, he would absolutely smash and probably be worth a first-round pick in fantasy. And then last year, the Cowboys punted running back, thought they would be okay, and instantly regretted it after watching Saquon Barkley help the Eagles win a Super Bowl, after watching Derrick Henry, turn the Ravens into really what should have been a Super Bowl contending team, except they can't get out of their own way in the NFL playoffs for some reason. So this year, they're going to correct that. They're not going to wait. They're going to take a running back, and they're going to take Omarion Hampton at pick 12 since Jeanty has gone at 10. They're going to grab Hampton at pick 12, and this would be a great spot for Hampton. Now, I know the Cowboys don't have that top 5 offensive line they had years ago when they had Zeke and everything, but they still are one of the best offenses when everybody is healthy, when Dak is healthy, CeeDee's healthy, the offensive line is healthy, still one of the best offenses, and Hampton would be an instant 3-down workhorse running back in this offense because who is taking touches from him? I mean, the Cowboys have literally the worst running back room in the NFL right now. Javonte Williams was absolutely horrible last year. Miles Sanders was somehow even worse than Javonte Williams last year. Not even sure how that's possible. They have the worst running back room in the NFL. It would instantly get better with Hampton. So let's slot Hampton in to the Cowboys, and he becomes a workhorse running back in a great offense. And then there's TreVeyon Henderson. This is the running back with the widest range of outcomes to me. He's the guy who, landing spot is going to matter the most as far as the top running backs. He could either be a complete bust if he lands in the wrong spot or a stud if he lands in the right spot. And he will be a stud in the right spot if that is the Denver Broncos. The Broncos, we know, need running back help as well. I mean, their running back room isn't a whole lot better than the Cowboys. Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime, yeah, not worried about those guys at all. And TreVeyon Henderson would go to an offense that fits his game because Sean Payton loves to throw to the running backs, and that's really where TreVeyon Henderson shines. I think TreVeyon Henderson on the Denver Broncos could be very similar to what we've seen with Alvin Kamara throughout his career. It's crazy to think Alvin Kamara has never run for 1,000 yards ever in his entire career, but he's still been a stud because of what he does in the passing game. That could be TreVeyon Henderson in the Broncos. So please, Sean Payton, make it happen. Let's get Henderson to the Broncos. All right, let's move on to wide receiver. And the number one wide receiver for most people on most people's boards is Ted McMillan. And Ted McMillan needs to go to a spot where he can be that outside big play wide receiver. And the spot that makes the most sense for me is the Chargers. The Chargers have been looking for this guy, right? They drafted Quentin Johnston. Hasn't been it. They re-signed Mike Williams. Really, Mike Williams? That's your answer here? Like, come on. Let's just take Ted McMillan here, pair him up with Ladd McConkey. Now, of course, Ted McMillan in this offense, probably not going to rack up a ton of receptions, probably not going to rack up a huge amount of receiving yards. But in this offense, I think he could have double-digit touchdowns upside in year one, which would be great for fantasy regardless of, receiving and his receptions and his yards, which he'll still get enough of those. And look, he's a perfect complement to Ladd McConkey out of the slot. They need that big outside wide receiver. Mike Williams not it anymore. Quentin Johnston may never be it. Let's get Ted McMillan to the Chargers. Then next we have Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State, and I think he would be great on the Houston Texans. Now I know they signed Christian Kirk, but really there's nothing else here. Like Stephon Diggs off to the Patriots. Tank Dell may not even play in 2025. They need a guy like Egbuka, the big slot wide receiver. He can be moved around the formation. Obviously, Nico going to play that X wide receiver role, but Egbuka can play all the other roles here. I think he's the number 2 wide receiver in this class. I think if he lands in a spot like this, he can be great. He's similar to Henderson in where if he lands in a bad spot, he could be a bust, but I think this would be a great spot for him. We know, they need offensive line for sure. That's probably priority number 1. So they probably won't go wide receiver this early. But again, we're projecting the perfect spot for these guys. Give me Egbuka in Houston. I think he could thrive there. And give me Matthew Golden on the Buffalo Bills. Again, I think he could absolutely thrive in this Bills offense. Another guy, you can move him all around the formation, and this guy could absolutely be a vertical threat wide receiver. They haven't had that since Stephon Diggs back in his prime. They need that in this offense again. Okay, Khalil Shakir, he's your short intermediate guy. Great. Keon Coleman, I'm sorry. Maybe he'll come around, but I didn't like him before the draft, and nothing I saw last year has changed my mind. Give me Matthew Golden. I like this guy as a playmaker in this offense. This guy could be hitting home runs every week. He could be similar to like what we saw with Xavier Worthy last year, except I think he could be even better from day one. So give me Matthew Golden with the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. And then give me Luther Burden on the 49ers. Man, I would love him on the 49ers. Now, I don't know if that's their plan or anything, but oh man, on the 49ers, I could see him entering into that Deebo Samuel role. Not with the rushing upside, but just how they used him as a wide receiver. Get him into space and let him rack up yards after catch. That is where Burden makes his money. Just get him those short, quick routes and get him in space and let him make plays. We know that's what the 49ers offense is pretty much built around with all their players except maybe Brandon Ayuk. And look, Brandon Ayuk, we don't even know A, is even going to be a 49er next year, and B, when's he going to be healthy? So give me Burden in that Deebo Samuel role. I think he could absolutely thrive and be a stud. He's another guy I think has a very wide range of outcomes. He could certainly be a bust in the wrong spot, but the 49ers would be a great spot for Luther Burden. And then finally, let's talk tight end. Most people believe Tyler Warren will be the first tight end drafted, and I think he will definitely be drafted early. Not necessarily the first, but maybe early. But I like him on the Philadelphia Eagles. I know Dallas Goedert is still technically an Eagle right now, but it's sounding like he's going to get traded. So if they're able to trade, maybe move back a little bit, trade Dallas Goedert, and then get Tyler Warren, or maybe they move Dallas Goedert before the draft even, get Tyler Warren. I would love this fit for him. I know it's not an offense that necessarily is going to have, a Brock Bowers type tight end, but there is no Brock Bowers tight end in this draft class, I'm sorry to tell you. So that, don't even worry about that. But this is still a great offense. Jalen Hurts is a good enough quarterback. And look, Dallas Goedert has had some nice years in this Eagles offense. Tyler Warren could be even better in this offense. So give me Tyler Warren on the Eagles. And then give me Colston Loveland on the Rams. Tyler Higbee, look, was like okay, I guess, before his ACL injury. Like they have had no tight end production in this offense, but they want tight end production in this offense. I know they signed Devontae Adams, but it's just him and Puka Nacua. They could support a tight end in this offense. Matthew Stafford can still sling it. Sean McVay knows how to scheme people open. Colston Loveland is an athletic freak. He knows how to get open. You can line him up all over the field. So give me Colston Loveland on the Rams. I would love that landing spot for him. Now, unfortunately, all these players are not going to land in all of these spots. Some of them will land in good spots, some not so good. But I'm excited to see what happens in the NFL draft. And don't forget, we will be live streaming every round of the NFL draft on here. So make sure you got those notifications turned on. And if you missed my video breaking down the top 10 rookie running backs and who I think they're best compared to in the current NFL landscape, well, you can check that one out right here.